Coming up on the program tonight, Ann Bressington in just a moment responds to criticism over anti-abortion brochures printed by her office. Dr. Reimer, an expert on addiction, talks about a new study with some sobering statistics on addictions and people's attitudes towards those addictions. And Wallabies coach Robbie Deans and skipper James Hall will talk about their hopes to beat Wales to finish off their World Cup campaign. 8223 0000, the number to ring. Interactive Radio Adelaide's FiveAA, you're listening to the Newshour, and you would have seen an article on page 9 of today's Advertiser by Sarah Martin, the political reporter for the Advertiser. Anti-abortion pamphlets published by independent MP Ann Bressington have come under fire from family planning groups for scaremongering and propagating misleading information. I have got Ann Bressington on the line. Ann Bressington, obviously an MLC in the Parliament here in South Australia. And thanks for coming on the program.
You're welcome, Andrew.
Now, you've come under a fair bit of flack in the Advertiser through this article, and you've got Sexual Health Information Networking and Education SA, Shine, saying the information that you published contained inaccurate information and could be traumatising towards children as well as women who have undergone the procedure. What are your thoughts about that, your response to that?
Well, I urged Sarah Martin to ask Shine SA exactly what information they were stating was inaccurate. Obviously, she hasn't done that. I don't know what information they're saying is inaccurate. I got that information from professionals in the field, and I published that pamphlet in good faith because those professionals were concerned that women weren't getting the right kind of information to make an informed decision about having an abortion.
What sort of professionals were you approached by? Are we talking doctors, we're talking nurses, social workers? Who approached you with that information?
Well, social workers, doctors, nurses, also women who have been to some family planning clinics and feel as if they were pressured into having abortion. Some went through with it, some didn't. Women who were saying that after they did have an abortion that they were basically left high and dry and got no support, no adequate counselling to deal with the emotional and psychological upheaval that then causes. They weren't warned about any of that before they had the abortion. So it was a number of stakeholders that came to me separately, and then I basically pulled them together for a stakeholders meeting, and this is the course of action that they wanted to take.
Okay. Now, you talk about these women who went to seek advice about a termination being pressured. Why would they be pressured when my understanding is that it's always a woman's choice as to whether or not they go through with a termination or not? So why would they be pressured into having a termination?
Well, Andrew, that's the part that doesn't make any sense to me at all, that this is all supposed to be about pro-choice and a woman's right to choose what happens with her body. But a number of stories that I got from women would tell the exact opposite, that there are, and I'm not saying every counsellor in these family planning clinics is this forceful, but there are some who obviously have their own ideas and their own agenda, and that's then projected onto their clients, which is probably the poorest kind of counselling that could be offered. So I don't know why there is this attitude amongst some of these counsellors, but I've got to tell you, the number of stories that I've heard that have been reported to me, I have no reason to doubt what these women told me.
Well, tell us a couple of stories.
Well, there was one woman who had an early test on the baby for Down syndrome, and it came back positive. And that woman was basically told that she was going to have a retarded child, and could their family really support that? Would they be able to cope? All of that sort of stuff going on. She went home and spoke to her husband about it. Her husband was traumatised by the information. They then decided that, yes, it probably would be the best thing to have an abortion if the baby wasn't going to be right. Then the mother was referred to Victoria because this was a 26-week gestation. so too late to have an abortion in South Australia. She was then referred to Victoria for an abortion. She pulled out of that and decided to have a further test. And the more concisive test came back to be negative, that the child was actually a healthy baby. There was another young girl who was a rape victim, was told that, it's probably not in her best interest to carry a baby as a result of rape. All of the arguments that go with that. She went home and thought about it for a couple of days, and she said she was very close to deciding that, yes, an abortion would be the best way to go. But then she sort of thought, well, this baby has committed no crime, and decided to keep the baby, has since had the baby and is fine, healthy, happy, and loving motherhood. So there's been, quite a few of those sorts of stories that have come to my attention, that I honestly believe that abortion is not just a word, and that's what the pamphlet says, that if women are going to have this procedure, like any other surgical procedure, they have a right to know how it will be done, what some of the consequences may be, the chance that the baby may be born alive, which happens not very often, about 14 a year, I think, in South Australia.
So what happens when a baby's born alive? When it's meant to be terminated?
One of the doctors told me that they have an ethical responsibility to care for that baby until it passes. Now, a baby at 16 weeks or 18 or whatever weeks isn't going to survive very long out of the womb, but some of them do survive for a couple of hours. And he told me, this is a doctor, told me that sometimes those babies are thrown into a kidney dish and wheeled into the freezer to die. And I find that very disturbing. This isn't about what I believe, whether I believe in abortion or not. This isn't about left or right. This is about right or wrong. And I believe that pamphlet is a wake-up call for us to start thinking about this procedure and some of the things that can happen. And the only way that women can actually make a choice about whether abortion is for them or not is to be well informed about that. And that's why I did the pamphlet, to support this group of people who were concerned. And I stress, this is my job. I am an elected member of the people of South Australia to represent their interests and their concerns. Now, some people won't agree with that or agree with the information in the pamphlet. I get that. But these people still have a right to be heard.
Well, there's no doubt about that. Now, we talked about the criticism that you've received from Shine SA about these particular pamphlets and how they could be traumatic to children and also people who've gone through the procedure of having a termination. What sort of other messages are you getting about these pamphlets from other people in the community? Are you getting much support, or are people dead against it? You're having more complaints? What's the situation?
Well, when I spoke with the advertiser on Friday, to my knowledge, I'd received about 11 complaints out of about 30,000 pamphlets that had been distributed. Now, there are some, obviously on Adelaide Now, that are saying they know of a group of 20 of them that complained all at once. Well, I didn't get those. If they were by phone, I didn't get the messages. But I've had about 2,000, maybe a little bit over, letters of support for distributing this information. Mm-hmm. I've had women say their 12-year-old daughter or their 11-year-old daughter has read the pamphlet and has decided that, they could never do that, but that they would take precautions to make sure that they never got in that situation in the first place. And the thing about this pamphlet, Andrew, was that in responsible families, this would have triggered a conversation about abortion. If you've got young teenage girls or young girls, I would have thought that this would have triggered parents to have a conversation with their children about the reality of abortion And, you know, we all say it's about making choices. Well, children need to be well informed about all of this so that they can make good informed choices when they're adolescents and adults. And, you know, my 9-year-old son read that pamphlet before it was even published, and he wasn't traumatised, but it led to him asking a lot of questions about abortion and about why people would do it. And we had a frank discussion, and I believe he's better for it.
Now, you've had 120,000 of these brochures printed.
No, that's not right.
Isn't it right?
No. And I had 30,000.
30,000, okay.
And
well,
30,000
big difference. Well, where have they gone? Where have they gone out to?
Well, the group that I said, the stakeholders that I had the meeting with, organised for people to do letterbox drops, and that's where they've gone out to. All corners of South Australia, some, you know, out in the country areas, others around the suburbs. And as I said, I've had, as far as I know and as far as I'm aware, 11 complaints.
What about schools? Why isn't this sort of information getting out to schools as well? So children, as you talk about just a moment ago, can make informed choices, as opposed to you know, the other side of the argument always getting out there and being very much available within the school curriculums.
Oh, because we wouldn't want to traumatise them with too much information now, would we, Andrew? You know, that's the attitude, that a teenage girl can go to an abortion clinic and get given selective information, doesn't have to have parental consent to have an abortion, can undergo the procedure, can come home a damaged human being, and I've seen this many, many, many times in my former life, not then able to tell parents what's happened and reverts to drug and alcohol abuse to try and deal with the grief, the loss, the shame. You know, somehow, somewhere along the line, someone believes that is a better outcome than having young girls educated and being encouraged to involve family in such a life-changing decision. Now, it doesn't make sense to me, but apparently there's some people out there who think these policies are good social policy. Makes perfect sense to them, but to me it doesn't sit well.
Okay, so there's 30,000 brochures that have been printed, that have been distributed. Will there be another run? Will you target other areas? What's the plan?
Well, we decided during that stakeholders meeting that there would be a series of pamphlets, that there would be this one on how abortions are done and what are some of the ramifications of that for the unborn baby, as in born alive, whatever, and the procedures that are used to abort these babies. We also thought that we would then do, from a mother's perspective, of a mother who hasn't coped with an abortion and what her life or their lives has been like post-abortion, what sort of services they were offered. And then another one on where some women have been able to go and find help, so could act as a sort of a referral to some places that are doing the right kind of counselling and the right kind of grief counselling for women who have had an abortion, and also a pamphlet that reflects the partner side of this. Because when these women go in for a family planning meeting, their boyfriends or partners aren't allowed to go in with them, I've been told. One woman has told me that her husband was not allowed to go in, or her boyfriend, wasn't allowed to go in.
What was the reason given for that?
I don't know. There was no reason. It's just that this is her choice.
That's policy.
Now,
So it's obviously policy?
Well, as far as I've only had one report of that, so I'll make that very clear.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's what was said, that it's probably not wise for the male to be in there and involved in this. Now, it's a woman's choice, pro-choice, it's her body, all that sort of stuff. Very well and good. But I know that when a woman has an abortion and the partner of that woman wasn't included in that decision, it can often lead to the breakup of the relationship and the breakdown of that relationship. And so I want to do a pamphlet from a male's perspective on this as well and distribute those. So that'll be over the coming 12 months. And, you know, if this raises this debate in the public and we have an open, frank discussion about how abortion is handled in this state and in this country, then well and good. But I'll stress that this pamphlet does not reflect my belief one way or the other about abortion.
It's about information from what I can gather.
This is information, it is factual, and it is the information that people or organisations like Shine SA believe is inappropriate for people to know. Well, who the hell are they to decide what information people do and don't need?
Ann Bressington, thanks very much. Look forward to finding out more information from those pamphlets as well. Okay, and if people want to contact you, they get in touch with your office. Maybe they have their own stories that they wish to relate to you, or they can get onto your website, I imagine. Absolutely, and there's a feedback line email on my website, and also my office number is 8237 9596, and I'm prepared to hear, you know, people's points of view on this, because that's how we get informed. And thanks again. Good to talk to you. Thank you, Andrew. Ann Bressington, then, independent MLC here in South Australia. The time is 24 minutes after 7. If you've had some experience within the system in relation to terminations, what are your thoughts about that brochure and Ann Bressington's comments? I'd like to hear from anyone, perhaps with a copy of that anti-abortion pamphlet. Tell us, is it offensive? Is it traumatic, as Shine SA are suggesting? And can somebody also tell me this? Why does Shine SA seem to want to shut down debate on the issue of abortions here in South Australia? 8223 0000 is my number. SMS 1999 1395.
Interactive Radio 1395, Adelaide's FiveAA.
27 minutes after 7, you're listening to the News Hour. Andrew Reimer with you till 8. That it's Bob Francis right up until midnight tonight. Between 9 and 10, we've got the guys from Universal Motor Auctions in. So if you're thinking about putting your car on the market, or you just want a general valuation for insurance purposes, something along those sort of lines, give them a call between 9 and 10 tonight here on Adelaide's FiveAA. Just before we go to calls in relation to Ann Bressington's comments from a moment ago, I've been having a look at the Adelaide Now website and the response to today's article. There were 102 comments to the article. One of them says, this is from SA Pro all the way, Adelaide the nanny state. I could not agree more. In 2011, if Ann Bressington wants people to be informed, then legislate. Do not advertise your views. This is a waste of our taxpayers' money, and you are not the media, you are the member of the Legislative Council of South Australia. Make policies, not ads. Get on with the politics, not the ads. Abortion is an emotional time when people need to make choices. Any decisions need to be made to the comfort of the persons involved. If they feel they're ill-informed, then they need to take responsibility and ask questions until they're satisfied with the information. There's no point blaming other people. They cannot answer the questions you do not ask. Still, decisions will be made, and they may be regretted either way. But we cannot legislate or advertise for this, okay? So that was from SA Pro all the way. On the other side of it, this is from Angela, says, why is it so important to so many people to be able to kill unwanted children? Why is it right and good to be able to kill an unborn child, but horrific and evil if done a few months later? So as I say, those comments from the Adelaide Now website. My number's 8223 0000. Fiona, thanks for holding on.
No, that's right. I'm happy to hold. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I'm quite horrified by what Ann Bressington has done.
Why?
I think she's taken what is certainly a very emotive issue and used a lot of emotive words to get across her opinion. Unfortunately, her opinion doesn't seem to be backed up by any facts, and I'm happy to throw just a couple of facts at you.
Well, before you do, are you involved with any association or organisation
not involved with
pro-choice?
Any association of any kind. Don't even necessarily want to give my opinion on whether or not I would or would not have an abortion. More the facts that worry me are her emotive words, and certainly some of the things she's put into that brochure that could be incredibly damaging to a lot of people.
So you've actually seen the brochure firsthand?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I haven't seen the brochure myself, and so I'm interested to know exactly what's in it. And is it traumatic? Is it offensive?
I think it's very traumatic and very offensive. Just as an example, she uses words like an 8-week unborn baby. Now, the reality is that's a very emotive way of describing a picture, when both by scientific definition and legal recognition, that is actually an embryo, not a baby. And in the interview you just did with Anne, she mentioned things like, a baby at 18 weeks being born now and potentially breathing or living or anything like that. The reality is that abortion in Adelaide is generally not recommended or not even an option anywhere after 12 weeks. So for someone to have an abortion of some kind so much later, there would have to be fairly dramatic reasons. And I would suggest that those parents are probably going through enough hell at the moment that they wouldn't need this sort of brochure. She talks about things like a description of a dilation and evacuation procedure. Now, this is a procedure that's also used following a miscarriage to avoid infection. And her description, which she doesn't provide any evidence or citation, has the potential to cause undue distress to anyone who's suffered a miscarriage, stating that, and her words are, the baby is not given an anaesthetic prior to the procedure, insinuates that the fetus won't feel any pain, when research from the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists finds that it can't feel any pain until 24 weeks. She doesn't provide any genuine citation or evidence for these claims. And the problem is she says, I haven't received a lot of feedback. Now, I know that there has been a lot of feedback directed to her, and unfortunately she actually hasn't responded. Now, if she'd only had, 9 or 11, and that figure has changed, responses, then why has she not actually, backed up her statements with any genuine information? Instead, there's a lot of rhetoric and a lot of scaremongering without any actual definition.
Well, Fiona, I would say again, I haven't seen the brochure myself, but you heard my interview with Anne just a short time ago, and she talked about the fact that she'd been approached by professionals who have given her the necessary information, doctors, nurses and social workers.
Yep, and I listened to your interview. I thought you did a really good job, and I thought you were prepared to ask the hard questions. I was really impressed with the interview. I was quite horrified with a lot of, as I said, her comeback about the 16 and 18-week abortions. Now, they would be incredibly rare, and as I said, for definitive reasons, when normal abortions aren't done until, are only done until 12 weeks. Can I just throw one other thing to you?
Yeah, sure.
According to the Australian Institute of Family Services, there were almost 36,000 Australian children in foster care as of the 30th of June last year. And I guess it's like these are children who have already been born, children, not embryos. And the Red Cross currently provides 800,000 breakfasts every year for children whose parents, for one reason or another, can't afford to do so themselves. And I guess that's probably a campaign that, should be waged. Those are not figures that I've just come out of the air. Those are figures actually from my niece, who has done all the research and is one of those people that has responded to this. So please don't think I'm with any pro or no group. I
asked you a question at the beginning and you've answered honestly, and I accept that.
And I just really think that she's put out a brochure that hasn't come with any facts to back it up, whereas I've been able to easily get hold of some facts, to back up other arguments. And it's so emotive, parents. Well,
and so it should be, though. So it should be. It should be emotive because we're talking about life and death. And we're talking about pregnancies and unwanted children and babies. And look, there's all sorts of reasons why
and emotional destruction
have,
to teenagers. There are and that's why I don't want to give a view one way or the other. What I'm saying is this particular pamphlet seems to be unbalanced in my view. Like there's no, to or fro argument. There's nothing to back it up in terms of research or being able to quote some research or anything like that. What I'm saying is, to put that sort of pamphlet out could do enormous damage to people that may already be suffering in some way, shape or form.
I imagine they would be. They would be. Yeah. Let's be honest. Right. It's a very emotive time, traumatic time for people involved in to do with a termination or abortion, however which way you want to call it.
And for people that have miscarried, we're not even talking to people that have had abortions. People that have miscarried can read that sort of brochure with information that's potentially not accurate, because I've been able to quote other medical research that is more accurate, and it can cause so much pain for people. I just think it needed to have been done in a more balanced way.
Well, at least, if there's one thing that Ann has done, we are talking about it, it's being debated, and it should be debated. It's my belief it should be debated.
And that's what I love about, because this brochure did come out a little while ago, I do love the fact that Talkback Radio actually allows, I guess, another side of the story to come out.
Thanks, Fiona.
So thank you for that.
Thanks for your call. Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good night.
You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye. 24 minutes to 8 here on Adelaide's FiveAA. Bob Francis in after 8 o'clock, and he's happy to take your calls on 8223 0000. G'day, Brian.
Yeah, g'day, Andrew. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, look, it sounds like another thing that Ann's doing that's, she's trying to get something out there that does need to be talked about. She seems to be the only one around that's trying to do something for people. To me, just listening to that lady before, I don't know. I haven't read Ann's brochure either. I just heard your interview with her, and she's obviously trying to do something, and she's getting the debate out there, and more power to her for that. And if some good comes out of it, well, that can only be for the better. But we heard on radio, Leon Bonner the other morning, where Ann helped a lady that had been harassed by her son, put her up in a motel room, and you don't hear any of these stories from other politicians, whether she's legislative council or whatever, because and she's out there trying to do something. I just think she's trying to better the state.
Well, look, I agree with you. Yeah. But, to be fair to other politicians, there are other politicians out there who are helping their constituents as well. We're just not necessarily hearing about it, but I give full kudos to Ann for the work she does.
Yeah.
Brian, I've got to leave you there, but thanks for your call. Good to talk to you. Kim's on the line. Hello, Kim.
Hello, Andrew. 2 callers ago, the argument would appear to have been that abortions will go and reduce the number of children in foster care, or euthanasia will get a lot of people out of the nursing homes, but I don't think either are really an ideal solution. And
I understand the point you're making. Yep.
Yeah, look, I don't agree with everything Ann Bressington says, but I think she says it in good faith and good conscience. Now, whoever runs Shine, I don't know much about them. I don't really know anything about them. But the surname is the same surname as the Labor candidate for Unley at the previous election. So it's where are they? Scandinavian, I think, and I think we've got a culture introduced here through some of these people that's foreign to us, and I don't think it's desirable. I think Shine need a lot more watching on what they're doing, because they're changing the children from early ages in school. They're creating a culture.
There is an agenda going on, and this agenda that you're referring to in relation to culture, we're talking about sexuality, to do with the issue of abortions. Then there is an agenda going on, and good on Ann. I say good on her for at least bringing up the debate, because Shine seems to me, from what I can tell, try to shut down all sorts of debate about all these issues that we're talking about, whereas Ann Bressington is bringing it to the forefront for people to be able to talk about it, and that can't be a bad thing.
Yep, we need the transparency.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kim.
Okay.
It's 20 minutes to 8 on Adelaide's FiveAA.
Interactive Radio, 1395, Adelaide's FiveAA.
2 minutes away from 8 o'clock. Bob Francis is in the studio right next door to me. He's waiting to take your calls on 8223 0000. You can also SMS 1999 1395 and email on air at FiveAA.com.au. Just before we go, we've got another SMS in relation to the interview I had with Ann Bressington. It says, regarding Ann, see the pamphlet, great for discussions. Let abortion be openly talked about, especially when it's a medical procedure. Thanks, Karen. Thank you very much for your SMS, Karen.